Hi, my dear Astro family. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is going to be taking place on 20th of April 2024. Why do I want to talk about this so early? Because I would like you to get ready. This is a mega good conjunction. It's a super good one. However, it can come with some type of negativity. So today I would like to um, explore both the positive and the negative side of this combination. Now, I have got the Black Friday promotion going on for another few days. So if you would like to learn astrology, all my courses are up to 60% off. And you can also book a reading with me for 2024. Those are 30% discounted. So go on my website and check that out. Now, let's get started with this upcoming Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. First of all, I'm excited about this, to be frank, because whenever Jupiter and Uranus meet, it's all about you wanting to free yourself up from something. Now, Jupiter and Uranus have a 14-year cycle. Jupiter has got planetary joy in the 11th house, and Uranus is the natural ruler of the 11th house. So there is some type of similarity going on between those two planets. They both rule intelligence and the higher mind, so they are connected in that respect too. Now, Uranus has got an 84-year cycle and Jupiter has a 12-year cycle. So if you get 84 and you divide it by 12, then you get number 7, which is a prime number. And this number is associated with Saturn, because Saturn has got a 28-year cycle with 7 years intervals between square and opposition points. So I tend to be looking at Saturn, of course, as the bridge between Jupiter and Uranus. So when we have got a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, Saturn usually plays the counterpart of that. Or sometimes we experience a little bit more of the Saturnian flavor of this. Now, interesting that the major arcana of the seventh tarot card is the Chariot, which traditionally relates to war, struggle, but triumph as well. Often it represents vengeance and some type of providence, and in reverse to riots, quarrels, litigations, and defeats. Now, if you start thinking about that, Jupiter is also the planet of triumph. It's so much to do with winning. It is the planet of Zeus, right? So he was the god of all gods. So it is definitely talking to us about somehow a more positive, uplifting belief system. Now, whenever there is a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction occurring, historically it comes with riots and protests. They are typically a response to a governmental decision, which is the counterpart, remember, is Saturn. So Saturn comes up with let's say, a health legislation in the sign of Pisces. People do not like that, so then they go on the streets. Saturn will resolve these situations by any aspect influencing the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And in this chart, if you look at it, we are going to be having a sextile between them too. Now, Jupiter is a fire and water element. He is the last fiery energy on the zodiacal wheel, as the final quadrant of the chart has no fire. So we are talking about the 10th, 11th, and the 12th houses. We have got earth element there, air element, and a little bit of a water. So fire is required for achievement. So Jupiter is the natural temple of the ninth house, and in this house we learn so that we have the knowledge. We work with our faith and our belief system, and we need to create success in the last quadrant areas of life. So Jupiter rules Sagittarius, whose symbol, the centaur, is half human, half horse. Sagittarius archetype describes the connection between the human side and the animalistic side. Now, the first 15 degree of Sagittarius is more animalistic, and the last 15 degree of Sagittarius is more humanitarian, actually. I mean, don't get me wrong, with Jupiter and Uranus, it's going to be, it's quite a positive aspect. There is no astrologer out there who would say that, you know what, this is something bad. But I want to start with the bad sides because unfortunately, sometimes, with Uranus, things are unpredictable. It can become sometimes a little bit cruel as well. Because imagine that you want to achieve a sort of enlightenment and you become greedy about it. For example, with Jupiter and Uranus, Uranus rules the criminals, for example. However, this combination here says that we need to be focusing a little bit less on the material side of life. However, it's in the sign of Taurus, which is quite a materialistic sign. Could you talk to us about powerful instincts, the gut feelings, which we need to learn to trust? Often it is about believing in a pack. But just like animals, they need to know when to act in a pack and when to retreat. A cave for rest, safety, and reflection as well at the same time. Now, the retreat time shows the connection to the Piscean side of Jupiter, because Jupiter rules two signs, right? Sagittarius and Pisces as well. And after the cave time of retreat, Jupiter-Uranus has recharged their batteries and is ready to get out there and conquer the world once again. Now, Jupiter from the Sagittarius side is more about belief, faith, and expansion, knowing that we can get there. It's all about finishing up the scorpionic tasks. That's the preceding sign of Sagittarius. And that was very much about healing some type of trauma and learning to be able to trust your gut feelings. Once we've got that, then we move on, and then it brings you so much success. Now, remember that we've got the Sun and Mars new synodic cycle going on, which started on 25 degree of Scorpio. And that's why I wanted to talk just slightly bit about the preceding signs. Now, Uranus rules Aquarius according to modern rulership. Traditionally, Aquarius would be ruled by Saturn, who is the lord of karma, and then it operates to help individuals develop a transcendent personality and live at a higher order of existence. It's pretty much the karmic law. What comes around goes around. So if Jupiter that leads the person to study, to explore, to develop opinions, to expand your vision somehow, Saturn comes in the picture and is going to be crystallizing and realizing the vision of Jupiter. And remember, we've got a Jupiter and Saturn sextile going on in the moment of that exact conjunction. Now, when you're looking at the last cycle, so we had that in 2010, and then we had a triple opposition 2016 and 17, and then we had a square in 2021. So what could really happen here? I mean, what the last conjunction pretty much meant for us was there was loads of riots going on, unfortunately. So we had Greece having major issues. 2010 started pretty much strikes over unequal wealth. 1% of the population held 90% of the wealth. And then 2010, 2012, we had the Greek debt crisis and we had loads of protests going on. Then in 2011 and 12, we had protests in Spain. 2010, British students went on protest. Then 2010, we had the Arabic Spring starting, where they were trying to bring down the Arabic regimes. And basically, we had all this extremism going on in Europe as well. So that's why I just wanted to start with this, because often this is not necessarily easy. But I went back in history just to look at, what was going on. And 75, 76, we had a conjunction that came with an American Revolution. Then we had 1782, 83, we had an opposition between them two. And then there was the Treaty of Paris, basically the end of American Revolution. Then 1788, 89, we had a conjunction that came with the French Revolution, and it was the fall of Bastille. Then 1968, 1969, we had a conjunction, and then we were about student riots, civil riots, the Vietnam War protests started, but also the gay rights became gained some importance in a sense. Then 1782, 83, when there was an opposition, basically it was the invention of hot air balloons. Then 1927, 28, we had a conjunction, and that was about the solo transatlantic flights. 1961, 62, an opposition, and Gagarin, manned space travel. 1968, 69, we had again conjunction, Apollo moon landings, men on the moon. So you can see that loads of the Jupiter and Uranus impact is coming with loads of technological advancements. So on a mundane level, Jupiter-Uranus aspects are periods where we see the peak and pivotal moment in social change. There should be a fundamental shift in people's belief system. They start questioning things like capitalism, free market economism, or the free movement of people. People get tired of their work, and then obviously they start asking about pays and rights and so forth. So they start questioning things. So we should see, when Jupiter and Uranus meet, the emerge of radical ideas that unfortunately challenge as well as divide people. With Jupiter-Uranus cycles, we tend to be seeing issues in legal matters as well as religious matters as well. So we can get divided by certain type of religious belief systems, for example. The changes are significant, but not as visible, for example, as with Saturn or Uranus. I would like to mention that as well, though. So we have got the next conjunction happening 2024, April 20th, but most likely we started feeling that already in 2023, because Jupiter and Uranus were approximately about 10 degrees apart from each other in the summer. And then they are going to be getting closer again at the end of the year in December, January. But they definitely will be within orb from February onwards. So I would say that, and this is something I predicted as well last year, that in July, August, we would see some type of protest, for example, or strikes, maybe just, but this time around, it's getting there. And typically this would be because of food and agricultural matters. So when I'm looking at the last cycle, which started in 1997 and lasted until 2010, you know what? We saw the introduction of electric cars, and space exploration happened quite significantly, especially from 2004 onwards. But in 1981, computers became available to all. In 1997, the internet age began. So we are talking about Jupiter and Uranus conjunctions no matter what. So, you know what? Internet has become a source of knowledge. So we are all scared a little bit with AI coming around and all these type of things. Unfortunately, it looks like it might be unstoppable. But at the same time, Jupiter and Uranus indicate a very strong desire to have knowledge. So the knowledge of the sky, I would mention, especially because both Jupiter and Uranus rules over the sky. So the space exploration is going to be, tremendous. And most likely, astrology will be changing in the next 13 years as well, or so. It could talk to us about a sudden change of destiny, or especially on a personal level, if you've got any planet around 21, 22 degree of the Earth signs, for example, then it could come with an element of lucky break for you. Uh, Jupiter and Uranus often talks about sudden fame and recognition as well. It's very possible to gain through some type of speculation also. But it does not mean that you should not, work with the planetary energies. You cannot just sit around and wait for the opportunity to come around. It's about being individualistic. It's about being radical, rebellious, non-conforming. And in the sign of Taurus, you know what? Stubbornness needs to be put aside. So the world is going to get shook up somehow. It's about wanting to find a meaning to life. It's about searching for the truth. So I would not be shocked, for example, if the UFOs became a major topic in the upcoming 13 years. It could talk to us about exploring new cultural traditions. So exploring the sky and discovering something out there, which is going to be which is going to make us question our whole existence overall. Now, Jupiter and Uranus have got pretty much of an unorthodox worldview. Usually have little usually they have, little allegiance to the way they were raised and their culture of origin. So it's very much about the rejection of religion. However, questions of faith interest them quite a lot. If you have got this conjunction, for example, in your chart. So, for example, one of their issues usually with churches is that they think that they might be just after money, or their energy is concentrated around money. So often, Jupiter and Uranus is kind of like becoming atheist somehow. But we still kind of use the phrase, thank the Lord, right? Very interesting with Jupiter and Uranus. Even though we pull away from these religious matters, but we use the phrase, thank the Lord. I mean, Jupiter Uranus often talks about an overnight success. Somehow the lucky break is the lottery winning aspect, really. So if you have got any trines or sextile going on, very tightly though, I would not give more than a 3-degree orb, then it could really bring you some type of lucky breaks. It's going to be trining bang on to the minute my Mercury, which is the ruler of my seventh house. So hopefully a sudden relationship is going to be popping into my life. Now, the conjunction is happening on 21 degree of Taurus, on the 22nd degree. But we're only going to be having one conjunction. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just one opportunity for you to have a lucky break, though. Always imagine a conjunction like a new planetary energy is merging. It's kind of like a super charged up new planet. So if we want to be making some type of predictions, what to expect with it, then Jupiter is travel, Uranus is sky. So most likely investing, for example, in air industries is a very smart idea for a lot of people. And you know what? Flying cars are coming. It's going to get popularized. Whether we believe it or not, I've been saying it for a few years. I think I started saying it in 2019. Now the Olympic Games will introduce these flying cars. And also Dubai is going to be the very first country. I read an article about that yesterday, who are actually, or New York has introduced them already, and Dubai is going to be something with the first one. I can't remember what it is, but Dubai is also taking part in this. But Jupiter is also about expansion. So, and then if Uranus is the sky, we're going to be expanding the sky. We're going to discover loads of new planetary energies. We're going to have a lot more space travelers. Maybe someone is going to be landing on, I don't know, Jupiter, or, something like that. maybe not Jupiter, but other planetary energies. If we say that Jupiter is language and Uranus is technology, then you know what? We might be able to speak to animals. Taurus, we're going to be able to understand their language. And you might think, Victor, you are silly. I mean, there is already attempts for that, by the way. They already have come up with some type of things which is getting tested. I read about this as well. There is one thing which is really common between Jupiter and Uranus, and that's something to do with future. So both are very future orientated. However, Uranus is a little bit more rebellious about, or sometimes hesitant, especially in the sign of Taurus, about future. It doesn't always want to accept what is coming. This is the reason why often people go on a riot, for example. Jupiter is the god of all gods. So often we are actually questioning the power of kings. Of course, we're talking about prime ministers and so forth, and we want them to step down, for example. We might start questioning a lot more whether there is actually democracy going on in the world or not. But in my opinion, with Jupiter and Uranus, it's kind of like the birth of a new society. And it looks to me it's going to get a lot better. Not immediately, though. So I think from 2030, we're going to see a lot more prosperity overall. I think this decade is still very challenging. And this is something I have been mentioning in a few of my videos, that this decade is really difficult, but the next decade looks a lot more optimistic. You know, it happens in the sign of Taurus. Jupiter is about abundance, money. Taurus is definitely about money. So whether we like it or not, but maybe this digitalized currency is coming, or there will be only one world currency. That might be coming. It could also indicate, for example, if we say that Jupiter is kind of like a guru or a authority figure, that we're going to have some type of weird, a dividing personality coming into rulership, who is going to really divide people's opinion about it. At the beginning, we might not take them too well, but then later on, you know what? He is good in a way. It's very much about both planets wants to make the world a better place. Imagine Jupiter as being the star maker. The downfall of that we kind of feel with Jupiter that we know everything. And then Uranus, who is the criminals, is stealing the idea of others. So we might be seeing loads of copycat, for example, of TV shows, and then that TV show might be doing better, for example. It could actually talk to us about how the lottery winning is going to change significantly. Maybe we're going to be revolutionizing the financial systems, the banking system overall. We might be asking a king to step down or a prime minister to step down. Now, it could be a very important banking figure as well. Jupiter rules over your opinion, and Uranus is quite rebellious. So it's very possible that loads of people are going to have a very rebellious opinion about certain things. But this could really much indicate that brilliant teachers are about to be born. Jupiter and Uranus is very much about leaving the past behind and not necessarily looking back, so that on a personal level, you try to create a better future. In the sign of Taurus, you know what? We might become a lot more earth conscious somehow. I mean, Taurus, apart from money and earth, it does talk about food. So it looks to me that the food technology is going to change significantly. Maybe they're going to learn how to clone animals. I mean, I know what your opinion is going to be about that, but I would like to mention that with the very last conjunction, they were cloning animals. There was testing going on, if I'm not mistaken, in Scotland. And maybe it was a sheep, if I'm not mistaken. We might be seeing that people are fighting for their freedom. So, such as, going against borders. We don't need borders. We want to be able to travel freely. We don't want to wear religious headscarves, for example, and so forth. We might start seeing these type of things as well. I mean, Uranus, the other major keyword of Uranus is wanting to break something down. With Jupiter, I would say that it is like the card, the Tower card in Tarot. So often it comes with an intuitive hit. And the Tower card really represents the Taurian energy as well. Because what is that gentleman going to be doing on top of the tower? Jumping out, climbing down, or staying there, hoping that, you know what, nothing is going to happen to me. So this is pretty much of a once in a lifetime opportunity to get on the roll and maybe gain financial freedom, but to get your freedom back as well somehow. I mean, Uranus, can represent chaos as well. So I'm expecting some type of chaos at the beginning. I'm going to give you an example. Let's imagine that the new digital currency is going to be introduced. And then all of a sudden, there is going to be technological upheavals. And people are going to get angry, and we're going to think that they are trying to steal our money and all those type of things. So, of course, they're going to go on streets. And so forth. Obviously, it could be the fact that, people just do not like the fact that it's going to get digitalized. But I feel like the technological advancement is going to take off so much, and I think Apple is going to be one of them. So if someone wants to maybe invest into Apple, so we're going to see some major technological advancements, and people are going to be receiving Nobel Prizes quite a lot. Something super good is going to get discovered here, which is going to be changing our life completely. Now, this conjunction is taking place on Capricorn's what? And Capricorn is the structure of institutions, the structure of money and banking system, but also the building material. So I can really imagine situations where the way how we're going to be building houses, maybe there's going to be a legislation that every single house needs to be earthquake proven. Or unfortunately, Uranus, which rules over natural disasters, especially in the sign of Taurus, basically shaking the earth. So landslides and so forth. So we're going to come up with some technological advancements to feel a lot safer. Taurus, it's about safety. But it could also indicate that, because Uranus rules burglars and criminals and so forth. So maybe a lot better security system, which is going to be coming around. Uranus rules over electricity. So a new source of electricity, the discovery of new building material, or a discovery of new source of electricity, for example. But on top of that, this could talk to us about the revolution of astrology, the revolution of divination, or even the revolution of biology as well. So I can imagine, because Taurus is so much connected to self-worth and beauty, and to a certain extent aging as well. So they're gonna find ways of stopping or slowing down, more to do with slowing down aging and these type of things. And definitely it could talk to us about finding cure against some type of illnesses that are incurable at the moment. So the phone, the laptop industry, I think it's going to be big. or it could just indicate the rebirth of Google and internet, for example, some type of revolutionary product. Now, it could be also an indication of the revolution of the education system. The realization that this education system is not working anymore, and we need to introduce something completely new. I was talking to you about the ability to understand animals. Well, most likely the technological advancement is going to be sweeping away the language barriers between people as well. It might be actually that they're going to start introducing some new visa programs. Or also on a personal level, what does it mean to be spiritual? This might be changing quite a lot. But I also feel like because Uranus can represent minority, that there's going to be some legislation made around race and ethnicity type of matters. I mean, I can't remember on top of my head, but with one of these Uranus-Jupiter conjunction, there was the very first Black person to be elected for a Nobel Prize or something like that. But the ethnicity question could be huge with that. Oh, and Uranus definitely rules anything to do with sexual orientation. So there might be legislation around sexual orientation. It might be just that we're going to start hopefully making peace with the LGBTQ community. Because often with Taurus, we build on something. And often it could be, for example, that a openly gay person is going to be elected, for example, as a prime minister, and so forth. I mean, Taurus is connected to sex as well. So we might start seeing more kind of like the upgraded version of sexual toys. That's a possibility too. So ask yourself the question, how can you make this period somehow super good for yourself? How can you be reinventing yourself? What else I wrote down on my notes, because I'm talking about anything, whatever comes up, and I'm always preparing a note list, what I want to be talking about. Equality for pay. Now, that might be a big one, such as, for example, what I can imagine is, from an equality point of view, is that people are going to be complaining about taxation. That in certain countries, let's not forget that we pay, I don't know, 47% tax. And people, eventually, hopefully, this is going to be somehow made easier for others. Or we might see often with the Jupiter and Uranus cycle, it's kind of like moving from one cycle to the next, but we carry over the energies of those. So, in this cycle, we started the universal credit system, or the digital banking, for example. So this would talk to us about that it's going to be rolled out somehow. Also, it could talk to us about that the loans are getting easier, or it could talk about somehow lowering the prices, or trying to lower the cost of living somehow. It could talk to us about having a major big sale, and then you can get something extremely cheap, some type of records which we can be breaking, for example. Some of the financial market related matters gonna go up significantly, or many of the companies probably gonna be looking at how to make people's well-being better. Even it could talk to us about the legislation made around working hours, the realization people work their 60 hours a day, I mean a week. and that's not necessarily good. I feel like this could be also not just for earth signs, but those who have got Aries or Libra rising sign. This could be a pretty good one for them, because it is falling into their, into their financial houses, for example. But I was looking at the very last conjunction between Uranus and Jupiter in the sign of Taurus, which was in 1941. So, and at that time, the land lease was signed into a law, and America sent loads of money to foreign countries. And maybe this time around, hopefully, America is going to get helped out somehow, because they are in big debt, right? But somehow, it's somehow coming out of the debt as well in the next 13 years. Some of the economies are going to be blooming. And the reason why I wanted to make this video a little bit earlier, because it can give opportunity for people to invest now. It could talk to us about, Jupiter and Uranus. Jupiter magnifies anything, and Uranus is the planet of disruption. So it could talk about, disruption in the house position where it goes through. So if it's in your seventh house, it's the personal relationship. The other major factor with Jupiter and Uranus is that we can become confident. Jupiter boosts our confidence significantly. We overestimate our ability and we take risks, and we need to be very mindful about it. It's in the sign of Taurus. Of course, it's very not just stubborn, but financially calculated. So the other side of the story is something to do with resistance. And Uranus, Jupiter shakes things up. So in the sign of Taurus, it is about the fear of stability, the lack of stability, actually. It could talk about, unrealistic expectations as well from a negative point of view. So I feel like that Saturn sextile to this combination is actually wanting you to stay real with your dreams. Now, what else do we see in this chart? It could, the things I actually noticed is that the exalted ruler of the sign is Moon. Now, often the exalted ruler shows us the ways how we can make this time extraordinary. And Moon is on a critical degree in the sign of Virgo. So it looks to me that health industry is going to be impacted very significantly. This brings in revolutionary topics around health industry, eating, lifestyle choices, how we eat. Maybe there is going to be programs, for example, for the youth not to get fat that easily. That there is going to be a realization around that. Maybe a revolutionary weight loss pill or treatment is going to come around to help stopping obesity. What can make this period really bad is always the detrimental ruler of the sign, which would be Mars. Mars is in Pisces. So when we have no plan and then we just pretty much swimming around, when there is no energy to follow through, when we are fighting against letting go of something such as the old system. Remember that Saturn is also in the sign of Pisces as well. So letting go of something that is not serving your needs anymore is extremely important. When you completely disregard spirituality, and then you're just looking at your materialistic needs. When we get addicted to fighting, we fight for the sake of the fight, and then we are not opening up our own mind. Now, the dispositor of this combination is Venus, which has got a very tight conjunction to Chiron. So it's all about self-belief, self-worth, self-love, but healing through peace and love as well. it can indicate that if you cannot accept your own beauty, if you do not believe that you are lovable or you deserve the fine things in life, it's never going to be giving you an opportunity.